Here on our South Florida anchor desk, my former congressional colleague Pete Hoekstra stays with us. And Pete, we are joined via Skype from New York City by Michael Cutler, a former officer with Immigration and Naturalization Service. Gentlemen, before we get your comments, just one more comment from the dominant media culture. Dana Milbank of the Washington Post echoed some of what Senator McCain had to say. Take a listen.
Think about the extraordinary disconnect we saw this week. So we began with a State of the Union address that was about broadband and community colleges. You know, he didn't mention the word Al-Qaeda, certainly didn't mention Saudi Arabia or Yemen. He gave all of, I think, 65 words to counterterrorism at all. And then you see, it's been completely overtaken. So I think, as the president said Tuesday night, he wants to turn the page. He's saying the crisis, the shadow of crisis has passed, but you can't just make it so by saying it.
Now, Michael, as we hear Dana Milbank, it's as if there's a rising chorus from the dominant media culture saying, wait a minute, this president really doesn't get it when it comes to national security.
Look, it's obvious to everybody, and look, these issues aren't left or right. You know, I'm registered as a Democrat. I've always voted as an independent. But how on earth does anybody not look at the situation and see train wreck? But, you know, look at what the politicians from both sides of the aisle have done. The Republicans have just cobbled together a bill, the Secure Our Border First bill. What worries me about that is what's second. And what is second is to provide millions of aliens who snuck into the country. Let's face it, when someone runs the border, it's not that they're undocumented, which is a problem by itself. We don't know who they really are, but they're uninspected. You know, we spend over $3 billion a year inspecting passengers and cargo coming through ports of entry. They employ more than 20,000 people at Customs and Border Protection, CBP, for that mission. And yet, politicians from both sides of the aisle, including Boehner and the Republicans, are saying, well, if you ran the border and ignored that process, we're going to let you stay here and we'll give you the authority to work in the United States. They know we can't do an interview. They know that there's no capacity to do field investigations for millions of people. And then we get to the issue of sleepers. And there's a segue here. I just wrote an article for Front Page Magazine, just as I wrote an article for Californians for Population Stabilization, capsweb.org, about how, according to Coburn, who just left the Senate, that we squandered $50 billion on Homeland Security. The border remains open. And then we get to the issue of sleeper cells.
And mindful of those sleeper cells, since we've got Pete Hoekstra right here on the anchor desk,
Sure.
Michael, and he understands intelligence, what about sleeper cells in the United States? Are they here?
Well, I think they're here. You know, to what extent, we don't know. But when you take a look at what's happened in Europe, what's happening in France, the attacks in the UK, you know, sure, these groups are here and these individuals are here. And, you know, they're not going to be directly, they're not directly accountable, but they're waiting for an opportunity and the right time to hit us here in the U.S.
Michael, does that square with what you discovered in writing your piece?
Not entirely. Some are the so-called lone wolves, and these are the disenfranchised and the certifiable. But you also have sleepers, as we saw 9/11. You know, the 9/11 terrorists didn't get here on the 10th of September and then attack us the next day. They were here for months or longer. And when we give driver's licenses to illegal aliens whose identities can't be verified, realize a sleeper is kind of like a spy. And someone once very aptly said that a spy is someone who wouldn't attract the attention of a waiter or waitress at a Greasy Spoon diner, might even be that waiter. So the point is they want to hide in plain sight, and they want mobility and camouflage. A vehicle such as a taxi cab, a van, an ice cream truck provide the camouflage, and most of them are foreign nationals. And the disconnect that disturbs me is they're calling them homegrown. In fact, New York City Police Commissioner Kelly described Faisal Shahzad, the Times Square bomber, who came here at age 20 from Pakistan, as homegrown. How on earth is a guy who comes here at age 20 homegrown? I'll tell you why they say it, so that we ignore the immigration component of the threat that we're facing.
Well, let's talk to a guy who was on top of it with the Intelligence Committee. Pete, you heard what Michael had to say. 30 seconds for your reaction.
I think Michael's got it right. You've got those that have come in through the loopholes or have taken advantage of our immigration system, and you also have the possibility of homegrown terrorists. Both of those threats exist here in the United States.
And unfortunately, visas basically become a Visa card with no calling in on the debt that's accumulated. Maybe a poor metaphor, Michael, but people are exploiting those visas. Obviously, it's a topic we will continue to discuss with you. Michael, we thank you. Hope you're ready for that blizzard in New York. We'll bring you back real soon. When we come back, Peter Wallison on our economy. Stay with us. America's Forum continues here on Newsmax TV.